Planet Dolan.
From crazy gun-toting babysitters to being caught in a tornado, the Planet Dolan crew reenacts some of the best true stories from our subreddit about the scariest things we've experienced. I'm Hellbent, and today I'll be calling out your filthy lies. Number 10 was submitted by CynicalBubble. Wolfgang and his family lived in a small apartment when he was little. One night when he was in his room laying on his bed, his mother came in and told him that they were going out to eat. So Wolfgang climbed off his bed. While putting on his little shoes, he heard a loud bang! His mom ran into the room to see what happened. They saw a bullet hole in the ceiling, and that bullet had gone through Wolfgang's bed. If he had stayed in that bed a moment longer, he probably would have been killed. It's something he still thinks about to this day. Oh God, I wish that were me. Number 9 was submitted by I Love Dolan 235. When Gooby was 16, her family decided to go on a vacation one summer. Once they got to the airport, they got an unpleasant surprise. There was some dude butt naked in the middle of the floor screaming, "I want my gun!" The TSA agents tried tasing him, but it wasn't working. It only made him stronger. The cops showed up and arrested the man, who was apparently eating bath salts. Not feeling safe at that airport, Gooby and her family went to a different one. Where could somebody possibly live that driving to a different airport is an option? Also, how did they get tickets to another? I don't get this is a lie. This one's a lie. It's a lie! Number 8 was submitted by Wing679. Soup was carpooling with a group of friends one day when he noticed that the sky was turning green and the clouds were getting dark and very big. Everyone began to freak out, since they knew that bad weather was on its way and they were in the middle of nowhere. Just then, weather sidekick Soup looked out of the side of the window and saw a huge tornado in the distance. They were all terrified, not just because of the approaching tornado, but they were almost out of gas as well. When the car ran out of gas and stalled, they didn't know what to do. Then, the tornado came and sucked up the car. Soup and his friends screamed in horror as the tornado spun the car around and around and around and around. The car was then thrown about 5 miles away, crashing into a building. Once the tornado passed, the police and an ambulance came to attend to Soup and his friends. Sadly, one of his friends was killed. Another one of his friends was taken to the hospital with a broken leg. Soup and his other friend escaped with only minor injuries. Ever since that day, Soup and his friends check the weather before carpooling. I mean, except the dead one. He's not checking anything right now. What I want to know is, what building did they crash into? The Pillow Factory? How did they not all die? Number 7 was submitted by YouReadThisYourOKAY. It's an interesting name there, fella. The first time Spinal Palm was ever left home alone was the last time. One night, while in his room with his sweet little puppums, he heard a loud bang! Didn't we do this one already? Scared, he looked out of his window to see his former babysitter with a gun and 2 dead little girls at her feet. He backed away from the window, but then heard the front door open. He looked to see who it was, and it was the babysitter. Her shirt and pants were covered with blood. She said, "Come here, little guy." Spinal Palm screamed and ran back to his room and hid in his closet. He called 911 before the babysitter stepped into his room and fired her gun 3 times. His little heart was pounding so hard that he thought he was gonna die. The cops came to his house shortly after and arrested the babysitter. After that night, Spinal Palm stayed with his aunt whenever his parents went out. Look, if this one's somehow true, then not only is she an awful babysitter, but she's really bad at murder. Number 6 was submitted by Ghrtegyfghg. When Zara Gamba was 9, him and his friend Sid were walking home when a man in a hockey mask approached them. He told them to follow him to his house because it was safe there. Scared, they ran away. The man chased after them, pulling out his knife in the process. Zara Gamba and Sid ran to Sid's house and called the police. The man stood outside for a few hours when the police came and arrested him for standing there. A few months later, a lady told Zaragamba and said that they took her husband away from her and that she would kidnap them before stripping off their skin and burning them alive. After that, whenever Zaragamba and Sid had a sleepover, they always saw the lady outside the window staring at them with a hacksaw in her hand. How come the cops didn't take care of her? What kind of double standard is that? Number 5 was submitted by Gizmo3. For Melissa's 11th birthday, her grandmother gave her a doll and told her to never take it out of the plastic. One day later, Melissa was playing with her new doll when she smelled a bad odor. She discovered that the odor was coming from the plastic around her new dolly, so she took it off, despite her grandma saying not to. Just then, a big creepy ghost about 6 feet tall stood in front of her, staring at her. The ghostly figure looked exactly like the doll. Freaked out, Melissa ran to her parents' room where her sister was. Together, they snuck back into Melissa's bedroom where they found the doll, but not the ghost. So they grabbed the haunted spooky doll and put it in their brother's room, 'cause they're jerks. The next day, Melissa and her sister went into their brother's room to get the doll, but it wasn't there. Their brother told them that he never even saw it. A few years later, Melissa and her sister were rummaging around in the attic when they found the doll. Melissa brought it downstairs and put it on the couch in the living room. A few days later, the doll disappeared again and she never saw it again. Man, you really know you're lame when your action figures and dolls don't even want to hang out with you. Number 4 was submitted by Mother Trucker Dude. One night on Halloween, Derek's mom took him trick-or-treating. After stopping at a bunch of houses and getting all kinds of candy, it was time to go home. While walking back to their house, Derek and his mom saw a guy sprinting towards them with a chainsaw in his hands, wrapped up and ready to rip. They ran back to their house and called the police. Once the police arrived, they arrested the man, who turned out just to be a drunk fool on a Halloween's night with a chainsaw. Still, way scarier than a ghost if you ask me. Number 3 was submitted by Odo Kuro. While sleeping at his cousin's house one night, James Shark woke up to the sound of a door creaking open. A woman was standing there in the corridor, who James Shark thought was his mom. He said,
"Mom, what are you doing here? Do I gotta go?"
The woman didn't respond. As he continued to stare at her, he realized that she didn't have a face. While the woman was identical to his mom in every way, her face was smooth like an unfinished mannequin. Still facing him, the woman slowly slid away. Scared, James Shark closed the door and blocked it with the dresser until sunrise. Years later, at his own house, James Shark woke up in the middle of the night and saw the woman again, staring at him.
"Hey, Mom, what's going on?"
he asked. There was no response. He got up and walked to her. This time he was in some sort of trance. The woman began to slide away and James Shark felt compelled to follow her. She moved into the bathroom and stood in the bathtub. Just as he was about to step into the bathroom, James Shark snapped out of his trance. Boy never did like to take his bath. He felt his heart pounding, and a voice in his head told him to run away, but instead he froze. James Shark stared at the woman and asked,
"Who are you?"
There was no response. He began to cry and ran to get his parents, who searched the house, but they found nothing, and James Shark never saw the woman again. Pretty sure the ghost was just trying to get him to bathe for once. Number 2 was submitted by Sabas50. When Pringle was 13, he lived near a trail that led into the woods. After a big storm the night before, he decided to walk down the trail to check out the damage. As he walked, he noticed a bunch of uprooted trees and branches that were hanging on by a thread. Pringle decided to move them out of the way, as they were blocking the trail. As he began to move a small uprooted tree, a swinging branch fell and impaled him in the torso. Terrified that he hit something vital, Pringle knew that he had to pull it out. After calming himself down, he pulled out the branch and went to the hospital. The doctors said that the branch didn't hit anything vital and he could just walk it off. Once he got home, Pringle finished cleaning up the trail so nobody else would get hurt. Number 1 was submitted by Crazy Coyote KY. Lost Fox and his friend were heading home for Christmas break. They were about half an hour from their hometown when an ice storm hit. As the roads began to get covered with ice and snow, Lost Fox's friend began to drive slow. But it was too late. Their car began to do donuts all over the road. It wasn't only their car, but other cars too. Some cars slid off the road, while others did 180s. Luckily, the cars stopped sliding before they could hit each other. Everyone stayed put for a few hours until a plow truck came by. Once it drove by, all the cars, including Lost Fox and his friend, lined up behind it. Once they got to their hometown, Lost Fox and his friend began to talk about how scary the little car ballet had been. Huge thanks to the folks over on our Planet Dolan subreddit for submitting their stories. We have another question for you. What's the weirdest thing you caught your boss doing? Let us know on the Reddit page linked below and you might be featured in a future countdown. This video was made possible by our fans over on Patreon. Thanks for your support, guys. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.